I'm currently on safari in the Mashatu Game Reserve in Botswana, and I've had a couple of guests here ask me what equipment do I recommend for wildlife photography. So in this video today, I'm going to share what gear I use and what I highly recommend you bring on a wildlife photographic trip to Africa. Essentially, what you need is two cameras that have good ISO performance and good autofocus performance. What that means is I can mount two different types of lenses on each camera. Here I've got a Z6 II, a Nikon Z6 II, which is my primary camera, and I've got it mounted here to a 180 to 600 millimeter lens. Now the Z6 here and the Z6 II are ample for my wildlife photography. I would like something better, but I would highly recommend something like a Z8 or a Z9 if you can afford it. And if you shoot Canon, an R5 or an R3, and if you shoot Sony, an A1 or A7R5, those are top notch cameras. If you can't afford those, something like an R6 or R7 from Canon or the Sony A7 Mark IV. In terms of batteries, I carry 1 to 2 spare batteries per camera. My cameras both use the same batteries, which is nice. So I recommend at least 1 to 2 spare batteries per camera. I never really go through all of those batteries, but it's just there just in case I need. And memory cards, I've got a 120 gigabytes card in each. I don't carry any spares because I never use that much on OneDrive. And important to suggest here, I always download my images after every drive, every morning and every afternoon drive. Just download those memory cards, clear the memory cards, back those files up, and then format the cards. So you start each drive with a fresh set of memory cards. Now, the lens here I have is a 180 to 600. If you shoot Sony, a 200 to 600, or if you shoot Canon, 100 to 500. You can also use a 100 to 400. I like having the zoom functionality because it allows me to capture different images when you find a leopard or a lion or whatever you're shooting, for example. That versatility for me is better than having the performance of a prime lens. I have owned prime lenses before, but I found I often shot the same type of image. So I highly recommend a nice zoom lens if you like that versatility. By all means, if you can afford a big prime lens, then that will give you the absolute best quality. But I do find those big prime lenses are difficult to handle on a vehicle, especially when there's lots of bumps involved. So a nice 180 to 600, it's nice and small. You can handhold it. You don't necessarily need to mount it to anything. You can put it on a beanbag, but I like that versatility and the ability to quickly grab a photo when I need to. You know, sometimes things happen very quickly and you want to pick up the camera and grab the shot immediately. So this is my favorite lens, 180 to 600, that versatility, and also that zoom range. 600 millimeters is great for birds, and zooming out to 180 millimeters is great for wildlife when it's very close. So on my second camera here, a Nikon Z6, I've got a 24 to 120 f4 lens. I like this for the wider stuff, also for landscapes. It's nice that it's an f4 lens, so if you're shooting in low light, you can still shoot some nice low light images with that. Another alternative to this 24 to 120, if you can afford it, get a 70 to 200 f2.8 lens. That is very, very good range for wildlife, especially in Africa and at all the lodges. The animals are fairly habituated to vehicles, so you do get quite close to them sometimes. And shooting with an f2.8 lens is good for that low light ability. For the lenses, I carry a lens cloth because it can get very dusty in Africa, and specifically at Mashatu, which sometimes take you out to shoot some stars, I carry a lens capable of shooting stars. Now that could be a 14 to 24 2.8, 16 to 35 2.8, but I personally use a 20 millimeter 1.8 lens. The light gathering capability of that lens is beautiful, especially like I said in Mashatu, when you get that opportunity to go out and shoot a nice baobab under the African night sky, you definitely want to have something that you can do that with. I carry a small travel tripod on every game drive with me. You might find an opportunity when you stop for a sundowner or a coffee break. This comes in handy obviously when you want to photograph some stars. Now in terms of filters, I carry a polarizing filter. I don't carry anything else at the moment. And important to note, if you've got two lenses and they have different filter thread sizes, get yourself an adapter ring and buy the filter for the largest filter size lens you have. So I've got an 82 millimeter lens, and I've also got two 77 millimeter lenses. So I just bought an 82 millimeter filter, and then I've got this adapter ring which helps you put the filter on all of your lenses. I do carry all of this gear in a bag, which I take on the vehicle with me, try to keep everything covered if possible, but I don't worry too much about it. This new gear is very well weatherproofed and can sustain the harsh environment on an African safari. If you have any questions about what gear to take on an African wildlife photographic safari, drop me a comment below and we can chat. And if you want to learn more about wildlife photography, check out this video next, where I share some simple tips that you can use to improve your wildlife photography.